These ChooChoo Vision cameras have been upgraded with better picture quality, the software is a lot better now, and you can look at the views from multiple cameras at the same time. Let's take a look. So anyway, you can see here what I've picked up recently. I picked up another one of these cameras that you can attach to your locomotive, as well as one of these stationary cameras. I got one of these lenses thrown in as well that you can replace a cab camera and turn into a stationary camera. And I decided to go ahead and do that because the reality is, unless you have tunnel issues or things like that, you can just put this whole thing without the cable on a piece of rolling stock and push it around or pull it around, and it's going to work just fine. And so I decided it's just easier to do that than have all the cables everywhere. And then I can have one going to the front of the locomotive, and this could be mounted on the back, and it'll work just fine like that. Plus I can have this stationary if I want to do just the front of the locomotive plus 2 stationary cameras. I can do it that way as well. So I thought it was just an easier option to do it in that way. So it opens up a lot of possibilities, but the thing that I like the most and why I now have multiple cameras and why I might buy more is that the software has been improved a lot. So now with the regular screen, you can see the view from 2 separate cameras at once and then toggle which cameras you're looking at if you have more than 2. And you can pull up a JMRI throttle and operate a locomotive. And what's really cool is you can allow others elsewhere on the internet to do the same thing. So maybe you have a layout set up with a bunch of cameras, and maybe you want to have one of your friends somewhere else in the country join you on an operating session. They can do that, view the web page, control the locomotive if you do have a JMRI throttle set up, where you can interact with it via the internet, and then you can have a remote operating session in that way, which is pretty cool. Or you can just share live views from your locomotive or your layout and that kind of thing as well. Now, obviously, you can do all kinds of cameras, that are higher quality for doing live view for streaming that are stationary. But if you want to have live views from your train, this is a nice option to consider. Anyway, the 2x4 N scale layout, that's gone. I can't show you videos of that, but I do have the 1x5 N scale layout here that I'll be doing more work on here in the coming months, trying to get all the structures and scenery done finally after a couple years now. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put these on a locomotive. We're going to test it out, switching back and forth, and just see what it looks like with multiple cameras running at the same time. So you can see the setup I have here. I have this camera going to the front of the locomotive through the ribbon cable. And then this camera, which has the lens mounted directly in the control unit, is pointed backwards. So I have front and rear views. And then I have this stationary one, so I can place it around the layout in different areas and just kind of get a view of things, from ground level, as the trains and cars are moving around. So anyway, let's go ahead and get all of these turned on. These all have buttons here on the side, which you push to turn on. And then they'll flash as they're connecting to Wi-Fi, and then we should see a steady blue light once they actually connect. And this one's connected here. Okay, so what I've done here is connected all 3 cameras and the laptop now to my iPad, which I'm using as a hotspot. And this works really well. You can see I have, full strength on the Wi-Fi. The iPad's right here, so everything is within a few feet of it. And this is a lot easier than having to deal with the Wi-Fi in the house. What I had done before to get a better signal was to move one of my access points into the garage, and that's probably a better long-term solution. But using the iPad as a hotspot is really convenient because I can just bring that wherever I want. And so what I could do is I could bring these cameras and the iPad anywhere I want to, a layout I might be visiting, and then I can record video without having to worry about connecting to whatever Wi-Fi is at that location. So that's a really good option, I think. So we'll just do a little bit of operating back and forth. I'll record the screen and we can go ahead and see how this works. They're all going here. You can see my hands in front of these cameras. And so let's record some video here as we do some simple movements back and forth. And what I'll do is I'll just pick up these 3 cars here and put them all on this interchange track. But one thing having the camera on the locomotive does is it really changes your perspective of what a proper speed is. When you see it from the cab view, things obviously look like they're moving a lot faster in N scale. So, it can be a way to sort of make it more enjoyable to operate at a slower speed. And of course, it gives you a better excuse to get a layout like this fully scenic so you can enjoy operating on it with a camera on the locomotive itself. You can see if you have good Wi-Fi connections with your cameras, you get really nice smooth video. I do have this trackside camera, it looks like a little bit out of focus. There is a focus ring on the lens. You can turn left and right to adjust that focus. It's in focus back here, but not closer up, and so you can adjust where you want the focus point to be with each of these cameras, but obviously, that's one of those things you have to kind of decide on what range of focus you want. But let's go ahead. It's actually not what I wanted to do. Go a little faster here. Need to do a runaround. We'll shove this car on the interchange and then pick up that blue one there in the front. Oh, and as a side note, this Atlas GP15 is really nice. I do have a video on this locomotive where I added a keep alive to it, and you can check that out. I'll have a link somewhere up above here if you want to learn more about this locomotive, but definitely performs really well, and this is a great locomotive for a small switching layout. If you have cameras like that, you could set them where you have uncoupling magnets, and so if you're operating remotely, you can, see if you're uncoupling a car over a magnet properly and that kind of thing, which can be super helpful. And I can use this camera to see if I am coupling, although let me see if I can focus this. Okay, that's a lot better. Now I can just look at the video here and see if I am coupling to this boxcar. Looks like I'm probably not. Nope. Give it a harder shove. There we go. Yeah, it's really fun just being able to move this little camera around and get different angles very easily. hopefully I can actually fit past the turnout. One thing with the camera on here, or with that extra car, is that it does kind of change how you can do operations on this layout given the space you have around turnouts. It's going to be close. Yep, I can make it. All right, so we did that. So we'll just go ahead and stop the recording here. I did want to show you though, again, you have the ability to rotate the images, change the quality, brightness, contrast. I'm not doing the highest resolution. You can do a much higher resolution now on this new, on these new cameras. If you go on the admin page here, you can select the order that your cameras appear on your multicam page. You can do up to 6 cameras, and you have the option to rotate or not rotate them by putting a 0 or a 2. So 0 is regular, 2 is rotated. The difference there is obviously depending on how you have the camera placed, it might be right side up or upside down. So you can change the orientation, and then you just put the address of each camera that you need, and then you can put a name there so you have a label on the pictures. Anyway, very easy to set that up. So anyway, yeah, these cameras are really cool, and with the higher resolution image quality you have now with these ChooChoo Vision cameras, combined with the software updates that allow you to have that multicam view, and just some of the other additional features like being able to attach it to a JMRI controlled throttle and then actually control everything remotely is really cool. So these are really nice now. Getting a bunch of these could be a lot of fun if you have a larger layout and you want to be able to really see, hidden staging yards, all kinds of things like that with a live view. Now, obviously, if you do have a layout that you want to have permanent cameras in, what you want to do is run power to these. You can just, run the USB-C cord to a permanent power supply and do things that way. Also, while these are great for moving from locomotive to locomotive, the downside, of course, is that you have to keep recharging these. They do make a version that you can install permanently and pick up rail power, and you still have a battery, so you don't have to worry about track power issues. You'll basically have the battery serving as a keep alive, and you can install those either in a locomotive if it's a bigger scale like O scale, maybe HO scale, but especially O scale or bigger. Or you can install these in a box car that you can push along or pull along and have those camera views. So you might have 2 box cars, and so you could put one in the back of the locomotive, one in the front, and operate that way. And this way you have track power going to the camera. You never have to charge them up. And that can be a nice option long term, because charging obviously is just one of those things that's kind of a pain to do. So if you have the track power, that can be a great option. The new cameras also use a lot less power than the previous generation, so the battery does last a lot longer. With the old ones, it was like a half hour. With the new ones, you have the option of getting a smaller or a bigger battery. But with the bigger battery, this is definitely over an hour of use. I'm not sure. I haven't actually tested it to see how long it'll last, but it's a long time. And so you can do a pretty long operating session with those cameras as they are without even having track power added on. But again, you might consider installing those inside of a box car or something like that, where you can pick up track power and do things that way to keep everything recharged. So a lot of different options, but the ChooChoo Vision cameras are really cool. I'm really liking them now with the higher resolution lenses and longer life, stronger Wi-Fi signal, all those kinds of things, and the better software that allows you to use a lot of different camera views at one time. It's really fun. But anyway, yeah, really nice to get those live views during an operating session. It makes things just a lot more fun, and hopefully I can get this layout fully done here and we can do some live views of a fully scenic switching layout coming up here at some point later this year. But anyway, that's all for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.